Hello and welcome to Whisky.com, where fine spirits meet. And today, look around, I'm at the north coast of Scotland. If you look in that direction, you see a rainbow, and maybe if the camera picks it up, there's a double rainbow. Yeah. On the other side, we see the distillery, a few of the distillery buildings, a few of the workers' buildings. And yeah, the distillery was built in 1875 by Major James Moore. I'm not quite sure how to pronounce this guy. Unfortunately, the distillery was often sold, opened, closed, and there was a really long time period in the beginning to the middle of the 20th century where the distillery was closed for 53 years. That was, yeah, quite a pity. Probably something got lost from the very old spirit, but still the distillery makes a very traditional Scotch whiskey. And what is really famous is that it's actually on the north coast. So you have a major influence, and that is the weather and the climate, with all the sea air coming in, really chilly, really windy. That has a major influence on how the whiskey matures in the warehouse. And maybe later I'll take a dip on the public beach, because it's said to be really nice. Maybe not in November. Yeah, so stay tuned and find out how Glenglassaugh is made. We start off with the raw ingredients. And if you look to the next room, you see the malt bins. The malt bins hold a lot of malt, and there are 12 at a time, and they are pretty huge. So the storage area is way too much for the distillery. And this is because of historical reasons. This distillery is at the shore, and this meant that the deliveries were coming in with ships, so they had to take one whole shipload, and that is quite much, and that's why they have so many big malt bins here. Today they do have deliveries by truck, and therefore they don't use all their malt bins. What the distillery purchases is an unpeated malt most of the time in the year, and there are a few weeks where the distillery uses peated malt, about 30 to 40 ppm, and that is quite a smoky whiskey that comes out of that. Behind me here is the Proteus malt mill, and it is an old malt mill from Leeds in England. And yeah, it's still doing its job really well, and it runs about 5 tons of malted barley every batch. That is quite a big amount of malt. The second most important ingredient for the distillery is the water. We have 2 water sources. One is the Burn, that's the Scottish name for a creek or a small river, and they have built a dam a bit south of here to have some water for their cooling process. The Burn is actually just not enough quality for the water in the whiskey, but it is enough quality to have it through their distillation process for cooling. So the water that is used inside the mash tun is a water from Durham, and that is really clear water that is just run through the ground. It is really just a nice, clear, quality water, and that ends up here in the mash tun. It is a very old mash tun. It is not a lauter tun. So what we basically have is we have this big grist bin here, and then the black pipe at the bottom is actually feeding in the water, and then there's a masher that is actually just plowing through the grist and the water, mixing it, and with a big splash it ends up here in the cast iron mash tun. Yeah, it's a cast iron mash tun. It has a copper lid. The lid was added later, but it is just a tool for energy conservation, so the steam doesn't just disappear, and we have the energy staying inside the mash tun. Yeah, the mash tun runs at 62, 82 and something around 90 degrees Celsius. So it's a normal run, and the third water is then recycled for the next charge. And yeah, the end result is a really flowery, sugary, malty liquid that is perfect for making the beer, or what the Scottish people call the wash in the wash bags. I'm standing here in the room with the wash bags. The distillery has 6 wash bags. The wash bags, 2 of them are made from stainless steel, the rest is wooden wash bags. Let's talk a bit about the differences between wooden wash bags and stainless steel wash bags. The difference is, first of all, the plus points for the stainless steel is it's very efficient, it's very easy to clean, you nearly never have to replace them, they never go bad or something like that, and it's really a safe bet. You can never have any contamination, nearly never have any contamination. So that's really on the plus side of the stainless steel fermenters, whereas the wooden wash bags, you really thoroughly have to clean them, steam clean them really hot to not leave any bad bacteria inside, to not risk any contamination. But if you treat them well, they do produce a good wash for the distillation. But one factor that is really overlooked is the temperature. If you have the stainless steel wash bags, if you feel them, you really realize if they're hot or if they're cold. That's because stainless steel has a high heat conductivity. So during summertime and during wintertime, the heat loss is a lot different. So the temperatures within the fermentation process vary a lot during the summer and the winter time. So what the people at the distillery do is the initial temperature of the wort that it's filled in, they vary them between summer and winter. In summer they do it a bit cooler, in winter they do it a bit hotter to get a consistent kind of fermentation output in the end. With the wooden wash bags, you don't have to do that much. The wood is insulating really good. I cannot feel if it's hot or cold inside, it's just the normal temperature from outside. So it's a really good insulator. So you have a good consistency of quality all throughout the year. Whether it's hot outside or whether it's cold outside, doesn't matter. The fermentation always runs the same. And this is really one of the big plus points for the wooden fermentation tanks. So let's talk a bit numbers. 25,000 liters of capacity in there. There's more capacity, but you need that for the foam. And in the end, they come out at about 7.5% to 8% alcohol. And what they do here at the distillery is they look out for a really fruity character. And this is done by having a very long fermentation time. And it's about 80 hours. So when you smell it, it's nice, it's pears, it's still that fermenting flavor in there, bit malty, bit bready as well. This is because this is still working pretty rapidly here, so it's not done yet. If you smell the other ones, you really realize they are more sour, a bit more sour. They have more of the fresh pears in them, maybe a bit of a citric flavor. So this is really what the distillery wants, that fruity character that is just nice to have here at the Glenglassaugh distillery. So this here is the still room. And if you look just above the spirit safe, you see the nice weather outside and the coast and the sea. And to my right here, or to your right here, you see the wash still. To your left, you have the spirit still. And if you look at the spirit still, you realize, hey, it's exactly the same size as the wash still, and it also has a watch glass. And this tells you it was meant to be a wash still, but it was repurposed a long time ago. So we don't know why they repurposed it to a spirit still. Maybe they were missing the money for a real spirit still, but it works really fine. It's just a bit too big. So the wash still is filled with 12,500 liters and run about 6 hours. And the spirit still has less of a volume, and therefore you don't have to run as often, because you always have to wait for the wash charger, the spirit charger, to be full. So they can leave a bit more time, and you have a bit of a duration of 7 to 8 hours for the spirit distillation. And let's come to the spirit save. The spirit save is the old traditional way of operating a distillery, and it manages pretty much everything to where you want to measure and regulate what you want to still. Temperature-wise, you adjust these dials to have the steam flow and the heating of the distillery, and this is measured with a digital watch. So we can see exactly, it's pretty much at 100 degrees now, Celsius. But now let's focus on what the stillman has to look out for at the spirit safe. The first thing is you still it, you heat it up in the wash still, and then it condenses in this shell and tube condenser, and it comes out here in this dial here. So you can see, oh yeah, the wash still is running. If you want to measure what you're actually distilling, then you turn this dial here, this fills up, and then you can measure what temperature and what content you do have within the spirits distillation. So you measure the density and temperature, and through tables you can find out what kind of alcoholic volume you do have in the distillation. The spirit still you can measure through this and this dial. It has different levels of alcohol, so you need more measuring devices to get an accurate measurement. For when you distill your hard piece or your foreshots or your feints, you have to use different vials to see what alcoholic content you have. And when you're then ready to turn from your foreshots to your hard piece, or from your hard piece to your tails, then you just turn that lever here, and that is connected to this outlet. So it's really manual, and this tube is then connected either to the spirit tank or the low wines tank and the feints tank. So this is really manual work, so you have to work all the dials and check them very regularly to keep the quality and consistency of the spirit that is to be in the cask. For a long time, consistency, the people take samples of the spirit, and then you can map if the spirit is changing it at some point or not. That is really to get the quality of the spirit within a long time running, so you have a good quality, and that is what the people here at the distillery are carefully looking at. So I'm standing here in one of the dunnage warehouses. If you look up, it just got a new roof. That's because the distillery, when they got this building, it was just the skeleton of a building. They didn't have a roof. They had to put a new roof on it. Yeah, and if you look around, you see there's a lot of cask variation. That's because the distillery didn't have that much of a distinct history. It was closed many times. Much of the history of the traditions were lost. So they kind of could start a bit fresh, and then you can experiment more with casks, and that's what the distillery is still doing. You look, there is octave cask, very small, very fast maturation. Then you have, right in front of that, you have these long ruby port pipes. Ruby, very fruity, very nice. Then here you have a lot of old sherry casks. If you go through, the dates on the casks are really nice, and if you have newer casks, then you have the refill date on them as well. And here, if you look at them, most of the casks don't even have barcodes, because that was a time before barcodes. And there are some more newer sherry casks over there. And if you look at the very back, you see a lot of American standard barrels. There are a lot of bourbon barrels there, but now the company belongs to Brown-Forman. So we will see more and more Tennessee whiskey barrels coming in. In terms of proportions and numbers, there are a number of racked warehouses as well. So the distillery has about 60% barrels, 20% hogsheads, which is refurbished but refill casks. And then we have another 20% of these special casks, bourbon, sherry. There's even a barrel from wine from the Crimea here. So there's a lot of variation, and I'm really looking forward of what the distillery is going to do in the future. And that's exactly what we're going to do right now. We're going to skip to the interview, and I'm going to ask the people, the distillery manager, how the distillery is going to proceed, and try a few of the products, as I'm really into that spirit now. So I'm here with Alan McConaughey. You're 10 years distillery manager. You have seen how the distillery here opens again. You have 45 years of experience within the whiskey industry. Thank you very much for having us here.
It's a pleasure.
Great place. Really, a really nice place. Bit of a weather today. So how's the distillery here? I've seen the logo. I haven't gone through that yet. Per mare per terras.
Yes.
What does that mean, and what does that symbol mean?
By land and sea, and it's a symbol, the fish and so forth, representing the land where the barley and the water comes from, and the sea, with proximity to the sea. Yeah. And you would find that would be the same sort of, ideas and so forth for Islay distilleries and so forth in the rest of Scotland, but land and sea. It's something we're very proud of at the distillery. Okay, so yeah, you definitely celebrate the sea. I would do the same if I had this. Well, you mentioned the weather, and we get lots of weather in Glenglassaugh. And again, but that has its effect on the whiskey that we're going to taste just now. Okay, so what are we having today? Okay, the first one we're having is called Evolution. This is 50% alcohol. Ooh, okay. Quite young. It's only about say 7 years old. Between 6 and 8 years old. I would say 7 years old. A lovely light gold colour. Comes really from the fact that we only use fresh bourbon barrels to store this whiskey in. Fresh bourbon barrels? Only, from Tennessee. Bourbon from Tennessee, huh? Tennessee whiskey, sorry. Tennessee whiskey. I'm Scottish and I make whiskey, so it's bourbon barrels, it's Tennessee whiskey, sorry about that. Ah, nice. Sorry, folks. So yeah. A very light nose, very easy. There's a light fruity character. There's a cereal note in there, and obviously from the Tennessee whiskey barrels, you're going to get that vanilla creamy character in there. Oh, it's a really nice light bourbon character style whiskey. Very easy. Yeah, not as intense as the bourbon, but just light. Yeah. And I know what you mean when you told me about the production, when you have that fruitiness. Yeah. You still get that character from the very much so, especially with this one, with the choice of cask. Yeah, it just reminds me a bit of when I smelled the washbacks. Yeah. There's still some left in there. Very fruity. Yeah, very fruity character. You don't mind if I put a bit of water in there? No, not sure. Well, it's 50% alcohol. It's quite young. So a little water, I'm okay. I'm Scottish. I use water to make it, so I don't nice. But certainly adding the water will lift the nose. Even more fruity, but still more fresh fruity now. So although it's young, it's not too sharp. There's a spark on the tongue, but a very fresh, easy dram to drink, and if you want to have a dram on a hot summer's day, we don't have many of them at Glenglassaugh, but a really nice starting dram. Yeah, this would be. Yeah, I would also recognise it as a summer's whiskey for a light summer evening or something like that. There's still a strong fruity character in there, and you have to remember all the whiskey that's in here has been matured at Glenglassaugh. So we always discuss the angel share. So the angel share means the whiskey is breathing out, but it means the whiskey is breathing in. Yeah. So you have the sea, we're yards from the sea. You have that sea salty character as well. Yeah, it's a little bit of iodine, a little bit of not smoky but phenolic character. Yeah. Just a smidge though. Yeah. Well, you're at the sea. Yeah. And that's the sea then. And that's where it comes from. Yeah. Very very important to us to mature our whiskey on site. Either Glendronach, Glenglassaugh or Benriach, important to us that you have all the character from the area, as well as the influence from the cask. So, okay, 2013 you said the distillery was reopened? The distillery was reopened in 2008. Our company bought the distillery in 2013, and we inherited all of this whiskey in the casks that we found it to be in. We didn't change the casks We didn't re-rack the cask for this whiskey. We did for the other two. But we find we're very pleased with this one, and we've carried that tradition on.
Okay.
And I really find it a really enjoyable whiskey.
So when you took over the company, are you gonna you introduced a kind of new product range, and what do you want to do in the future? Is there going to be any more changes?
Yeah, well, one of the problems that Glenglassaugh historically has had is its inability to stay open, which is a pity, and always the same problem at any distillery. So from 1986 it was closed until 2008, so there's a big gap. But now we've been producing whiskey since 2008. It's now approaching 10 years old. So from here, you know, year by year, then we'll be able to introduce different ages. More, you know, the more normal age, if you like, for single malt whiskies, and you'll start to see age statements appearing on the brands, and we're experimenting again. You've seen from your visit to the warehouses, we're experimenting with wine casks, with sherry casks, port casks, to give us this, you know, even casks imported from, you know, wineries in the Crimea, from the Massandra winery, to give us a different character, Madeira, etc.
So there's going
lots
to be
of experimentation.
Exciting future about Glenglassaugh.
Very much so.
Yeah,
I mean,
I'm looking forward to it.
well, it's an unusual situation in that you have a distillery where you can almost start again. You know, if you go to a distillery which is renowned for peaty whiskey, you know, for example, then it's difficult to change.
Yeah, definitely.
So we have a distillery with very old whiskies. The oldest whiskey we have on site is from 1963.
Yeah, it's
so there's old whiskies. The problem is the gap. It's a
big gap. There is a big gap
so
between that.
that's about 22 years. So, but now we've been in constant production since then, and we're carrying on. We'll be stock every year that we can mature and influence to our own likes.
Okay, so the Revival, that has some really nice colour to it.
Yeah, Revival again, a really nice whiskey. It's probably nearer 8 years old. But the choice of cask, we have used red wine casks, sherry casks, and some bourbon casks as well.
So it's really
a real mixture, we would say marriage of different flavours and characters. But again, you can see all our whiskies are non-chill filtered, natural colour. So again, if someone asks if the choice of cask is important, Tennessee whiskey barrel, red wine, sherry, and bourbon. So huge difference.
Huge difference.
Not only in the colour but also in the taste. A much more rounded taste, if you like, more depth. This is a really pleasant fresh dram. This one a wee bit different, and due to the cask selection.
So what ABV are we looking at?
This is 46% alcohol.
Oh, that nice 46%, huh?
Back to that again, yeah, and again we choose the alcohol content of our bottles to what we think suits the dram. You know, we don't have a hard and fast rule. If we thought 50% was too high for the Evolution, then we would reduce it. If we thought the Revival should go up to 50%, then we'll do that. So we monitor that all the time.
I do get a lot of flowers in there.
Real, yeah, it's and very, very, very different. The interesting thing for me is these are whiskies from the same distillery, almost the same age. So a real difference in what you're drinking.
Definitely. It's much deeper, and it's almost going with flowers and heather. And
for me, the
wine is
you've got the bourbon. No, this is bourbon. I beg your pardon. So you have a bourbon influence, and you always pick that up from the vanilla, creamy honey character that's in there.
So nice in the back. You have that vanilla in there.
But you've got the sherry and the red wine characters as well. You're talking about flowers, real fruity, floral aspect from them. But I enjoy the almost caramel fudge influence from the bourbon. And again, you have that sea character. You know, it's in the background and not so intense, I feel, as with the evolution, but a lovely drum.
Nice,
Very rounded.
nice. It's very, round is one nice thing to say about that. It's round, berries, heather. Oh, incredible.
You said berries. I mean, absolutely. If not winter fruits, then almost soft fruits. You know, it's a really well-rounded dram. And again, you have the legs that we always look for. It takes a long time to come down the glass. And we always that's something we always look for.
Oh, the berries are
the
incredible
berries,
in the taste.
yeah, I mean the berries, you know, really from the red wine, and you have that spicy sherry character.
Oh
in there as well.
yeah. Now in the aftertaste, you do have the volume, and the wood, the intensity, the bit that spiciness coming in. Oh, that
spicy character always from the sherry cask, and with that sherry, for me on the tongue at the end, there is I wouldn't say it's the intense dark chocolate you associate with sherry, but a light chocolate character also.
Yeah, that chocolate is always a bit of a mystery to me. It's there, but it's not as chocolatey as real chocolate, but it's definitely a remembrance of chocolate, and it's incredible.
I mean, if you try the Glendronach sherry whiskies, a real dark, bitter chocolate, intense sherry character. This obviously not so intense, and for me, a little light chocolate. But you know, that's.
I like it. Yeah, but it's a bit more grapey, fruity berries than usual cherry. Maybe that wine or port. I'm not quite sure, but it's definitely a bit fresh, fruitier, grapier than the usual cherry maturation.
Yeah, absolutely. Well,
I love it.
Yeah, but it's a combination. It's really nice. Yeah, it's a combination of red wine matured spirit, bourbon barrels, and sherry, and you find it all in there.
Yeah, if you say it's an 8-year-old, it's a non-age statement whiskey, but it's really complex for a non-age statement whiskey. I love it.
Well, we see no benefit in not using the best casks that we can source. So you get the benefit, and we're glad that you get the benefit of that. But for us, the cask is as important as the rest of the process. And that's what those flavours that we're talking about, that's where many of them will come from. Okay,
nice. So, the whole area around here, do you ever go swimming? I've seen the beach there.
No.
So is it too chilly in the summer?
Not only too chilly, but me in shorts would upset the locals, I'm afraid. So very popular. The beach is fantastic for surfing.
Okay. Surfing.
Yeah. The nearest I get to the water is with my dog. My dog will go swimming, but I don't. And but the whole area, it's spectacular. It's not a very summer's day today, but even at that, then you have the waves and so forth.
Yeah. So it's really a nice thing to visit Glenglassaugh and then afterwards go for a swim when you visit in summer.
I'm still not going for a swim, but
the tourists, as of many viewers from us, will probably come here and then.
Yeah, well, I mean, what could be better than coming to Glenglassaugh? You're on the beach. We have our own beach. We're on the beach, fantastic scenery, and then
really
coming to the distillery, having a little tour around and a lovely taste.
Yeah, definitely. That sounds like a really good holiday.
So I agree. Exactly. Yeah. I mean, all the flavours of your visit are in the glass.
Nice. So, when did you start making peaty whiskey?
It would be about just under 5 years ago, and so the whiskey is young, but we're very pleased with it. It's a real peaty dram. Beg your pardon. Smoky dram, not so much of the intense peat character, but very smoky, and also you have that sweetness from the distillery that we've talked about, and the influence from the sea as well.
I'm really excited.
Yeah, it's very smoky.
Yeah, you told me that 30 to 40 ppm. That's going to be an intense one.
Well, it would be high 30s, approaching 40.
Okay.
And it's not always, it's difficult to get it exact. You know, with the maltster, we use the malt supplier who is only 7 miles from here. So we all the barley is sourced in Scotland, produced locally, and then transported here. So we don't lose any of the flavours or characters in transport, which is very important to us. But a real smoky young whiskey, and we feel it's what we're looking for, and we think as years go on, then this will be a major brand for us.
So if you have your nose very far away, it's just that fruity lightness, but when you go in deeper, it just hits you with that smoke.
This maybe when a little water would be useful, because it really will lift the. In fact, I'm going to try that.
Okay.
Cheers. Cheers.
I'll try that as well.
And there is a big lift, almost certainly of the phenolic character you were talking earlier, and that smoky, less peaty, phenolic and smoky.
Yeah. Before it was smoky phenolic, but now it's definitely phenolic. It's on the phenolic side. But still, that you still have a bit of fruitiness coming through.
Yeah. Oh, very much so.
It's not overwhelming.
That's from the distillery. That's from the fermentation.
The smoke is definitely the dominant flavor, but it's not pushing everything down. It's still, you still have a little bit of fruitiness, a little bit of a light, sweet vanilla character.
Again, from using bourbon barrels also. So bourbon barrels and hogsheads for the torfa, and we like our smoky whiskies to have that creamy character that the bourbon will impart into them.
Nice.
Yeah, real light, smoky, salty character from the area, and for such a young whiskey, it's a long finish, and not harsh. This is 50% alcohol again, so it's high in alcohol, but you don't really detect that in the taste.
I was just about to ask. That's intense. And then you have that intensity of the flavor, the peat. It's all there. So it's a high peaty whiskey. It's definitely a strong peaty whiskey. I love it. And you do have that bourbon Tennessee whiskey character. Definitely
this would be bourbon. Yeah,
this would be bourbon. Okay, so it's when the peat is fading out, you have that sweetness, vanilla, a little bit of popcorn caramel in the back.
Well, I mean, one of the distilleries I worked in before was on Islay, and we would always look for that creosote character, if you like, that phenolic character. And for me, that's there, to a degree, not overpowering, and I think it works really well with the whiskey.
Oh, nice. Oh, I love it. And I'm really looking forward to what you're doing in the future as well. That's going to be really interesting.
Well, for me also, I mean, I've been in the industry a very long time, and really this is the first time I've worked in a distillery where we can influence, if you like, the way the distillery will taste in the future. You know, we're starting almost from scratch, and it's really exciting to be a part of.
Yeah, I love it. So, thank you very much for having us here, and thanks for showing around the distillery. So, thank you very much. Thank you very much for watching this video. I hope you liked the video. Please give us a thumbs up, and see you next time.